You know the feeling. You're fine, and then suddenly you're not. Nothing big happened, nothing dramatic, but for seemingly no reason at all, suddenly you feel foggy and irritated and completely zonked out for the rest of your day. If you're a sensitive person, this probably happens to you regularly. The road from I'm totally fine to I'm completely overstimulated is often a very short journey for sensitive souls. And if overstimulation is an experience you have often, you've probably tried to explain it away. You're tired, you're hormonal, you're just being overly dramatic, you're too sensitive, and this is just how your life is. But none of those explanations ever really explain what's going on when you get overstimulated. So most of us just end up surrendering to it. What's actually happening to you when you're overstimulated is pretty complex, which is one of the reasons why so many of us just accept it as it is. Overstimulation doesn't just happen in one dimension of your life. It's not that your body is picking up on too much stuff or your mind is thinking too much. It's actually that your entire system is experiencing a backlog of energy that it can't handle because it's been exposed in so many different dimensions for so long. Now, your human system actually exists across 10 different dimensions. And every single one of them is constantly being exposed to new energy all the time. And you have to learn to protect yourself from that energy if you don't want to be overstimulated every single day. In this lesson, we're going to do a deep dive into all 10 dimensions, the specific kind of energy or stimulation that moves through it, and what you can do to protect each dimension from being overloaded by energy you do not need. Now, if this material really makes sense to you, I hope you consider signing up for my newsletter. Each week, I send out an email with energy patterns to pay attention to, so you don't have to walk this world feeling overstimulated and overwhelmed all the time. There's a link in the description to subscribe for free. So the primary mechanism we're working with here in this lesson is how to avoid being overstimulated by energy in the first place across all 10 dimensions of your system. So let's walk through each of the dimensions and specifically identify the types of energy and the stimulation that you experience within each one. Along the way, I'll point out examples of experiences that can overstimulate each dimension and give you practices for each of them so that you can better manage your exposure to that particular energy and ultimately reduce overstimulation altogether. As we walk through the dimensions, we'll move from the higher ethereal dimensions of the soul down to the lower earthly dimensions of the body. So let's start with dimension 10. Dimension 10 contains your sacred self. When energy moves in this dimension, it creates ether. So ether is a very mysterious substance. It contains pure potential energy, like the sub-quantum material that makes up everything in existence. So your ever expansive soul exists here, as well as the desires that it has for you in this lifetime. So if you've ever had a divine moment of imagination or communicated with a spirit guide or felt, pure bliss and wholeness, this was your sacred self at work. Now, like I said, this dimension is responsible for creating your desires, and it can get overstimulated by too much exposure to media, marketing, and messages that tell you what you should want. So think about the ad that convinces you that your life is somehow incomplete without a new product, or the influencer whose lifestyle inadvertently makes yours feels like it's not enough, or the constant messaging that tells you what success and beauty or happiness are supposed to look like. So to reduce overstimulation in this 10th dimension, you want to avoid media, social media, ads, and marketing, maybe all together for a bit. Right? If you can't connect to what you really want and you feel really disoriented, pull back from all of that stimulation. Disconnect from anything that tells you what you should want or how you should desire to live your life. Dimension 9 contains your sage self. When energy moves in this dimension, it creates insight, the substance of knowing something before you can explain how you know it. It doesn't follow a straight timeline. It draws on every lifetime of experience that you carry, letting you glimpse forward or look back with infinite access to that knowledge. So if you've ever had like a gut feeling about a person or a situation, this was your sage self at work. This dimension is responsible for your sense of intuitive knowing, and it can get overstimulated by memories of the past or messages about the future, like especially anything that embeds danger or dread into that timeline. So your body wants to survive. So it pays close attention to anything that suggests a threat, like even an imagined one. So think about apocalyptic movies, doomsday predictions, or replaying a painful memory on a loop, or even like endlessly rehearsing a future conversation that hasn't happened yet. All of that can hijack your ninth dimension and lead to some serious overstimulation. So, to reduce overstimulation in this dimension, you want to limit your exposure to like bad predictions and bad memories. So, to apocalyptic or catastrophizing content, maybe try to avoid ruminating about the past, like just break that cycle. And instead, practice gently returning your attention over and over to love, peace, and a more beautiful future for yourself and this earth. Because what eventually gets made in this ninth dimension can go down into the lower dimension. So really, you're creating your reality all of the time. And you can't do that from an empowered, loving, clear place if you've picked up so much noise about how bad the future is going to be. Dimension 8 contains your simultaneous self. So when energy moves in this dimension, it creates light. So the substance that lets you actually focus on right now, simultaneously with everything else that also exists right now. Whenever you move your attention, this is your simultaneous self at work. You're literally like shining a light on something when you move your attention. This dimension is responsible for your visual attention. And let me be clear, you don't need physical eyes or physical sight to interact with this dimension or the energy here. Like anything that pulls your focus and holds it, that's what's in this dimension. It's what we're looking at in the screen of our mind. Now, like I said, even like something like a mental image or something that you are looking at with your physical eyes, all of it lives here. So think about scrolling through a feed of distressing images or watching the news replay the same disturbing footage on loop, or simply being in like a visually chaotic, overstimulating place. Like, anyone else struggle with bright lights? I certainly do. All of that has to do with your eighth dimension. So, to reduce overstimulation here, you want to give your eyes a real rest. So, time away from screens, like spend time in a plain and uncluttered place, or maybe somewhere beautiful surrounded by nature. Maybe try dimming the lights, closing your eyes for a few minutes. Like, try and take your focus away from everything that's trying to hijack your attention all the time. And instead, go inward and focus on what you really, really desire. Dimension 7 contains your synchronizing self. When energy moves in this dimension, it creates sound and thought. So, language, the substance underneath every word you hear, think, or speak. So, anytime you say something, or you read words, or you think words, or process any kind of language and meaning, this is your synchronizing self at work. This dimension is responsible for what you communicate, both what you put out and what you take in. And it can get overstimulated by language and communication, especially anything doomsday or upsetting, like I said. So think about a news broadcast delivered in an urgent, alarming tone, an argument happening nearby, or dissonant music, or even like reading distressing headlines silently to yourself, right? All of this is communication, and it is very easy to be overstimulated by this in today's modern, highly communicative world, right? So, to reduce overstimulation in this dimension, you want to build in silence, not just auditorily, what you can hear with your ears, but also a chance to stop thinking and processing and communicating and connecting. So, turn off background noise, mute notifications, give yourself stretches of the day with nothing playing, nothing creating sound, and nothing sort of giving you a demand for communication, to read it, to understand it, or to connect with other people. Dimension 6 contains your subtle self. When energy moves in this dimension, it creates electromagnetism, the literal energetic field radiating off of you and everyone around you. If you've ever felt someone's presence, like the second they walked into a room, this was your subtle self at work. This dimension is responsible for your energetic field, your aura, your biofield, and it can get overstimulated by electromagnetic currents, like the electromagnetic frequencies or EMFs that are constantly being emitted from your phone, computer, television, and other devices. So think about falling asleep with your phone next to your head, or working for hours with a laptop on your lap, or spending your whole day surrounded by screens kind of humming in the background. All of that can lead to overstimulation in this dimension. To reduce overstimulation in this dimension, you want to create distance from your devices. So keep your phone out of your bedroom, take breaks from screens throughout the day, and give your energetic field time away from the constant electromagnetic exposure. Dimension 5 contains your social self. When energy moves in this direction, it creates atoms, the particles that bond you to the material world. So your social self determines your sense of connection, alignment, and belonging to this world and to your world. This dimension is responsible for your sense of community, and it can get overwhelmed by social exposure, especially when others require things like exclusivity or elitism and certain conditions for your belonging. So think about a friend group that has unspoken rules about who's in and who's out, what to do, not to do, a workplace culture that only values certain team members more than others, a country that tells you that you're not welcome, or any relationship where love and acceptance seems to depend on meeting certain expectations. Those are all going to overstimulate your social self, which will become preoccupied by trying to fit in. So to reduce overstimulation in this dimension, you want to seek out relationships and communities and places with unconditional belonging, and limit your time in spaces and to people and places that make you feel like you don't belong. Dimension 4 contains your synthesizing self. When energy moves in this dimension, it creates molecules, the hormonal and neurochemical substance shifting inside of you and your body. So if you've felt like your whole mood change after eating like a really heavy meal, or maybe your mood dips because, the biochemistry in your gut or brain is off, like this is your synthesizing self and how well it's functioning. This dimension is responsible for your internal chemistry, and it can get overstimulated by chemicals that don't naturally exist in nature or your body, like artificial coloring and natural flavoring in food, parabens in your skin and hair care products, and especially fragrance, which some countries don't even require companies to disclose the ingredients of. So think about a heavily scented candle, a cleaning product with an overpowering smell, or a processed like snack packed with a bunch of additives. This can all lead to the overstimulation of your synthesizing self. To reduce overstimulation in this dimension, read your food labels and try to avoid as many artificial ingredients as you can. Choose fragrance-free products and pay attention to how your mood and energy shift after specific foods or using specific products. Then start eliminating the ones that don't seem to serve you. Dimension 3 contains your soft self. When energy moves in this dimension, it creates macromolecules. So these are when molecules come together to create bigger substances. So this is the cells and the tissues of your body itself. So when you touch someone or someone touches you, this is your soft self at work. This dimension is responsible for physical sensations, and it can get overstimulated by physical touch and discomfort. So a scratchy shirt tag, an uncomfortable chair, or hours spent sitting still without moving your body at all. To reduce overstimulation in this dimension, remove physical irritants when you can, right? Like if something is bugging you, do something. Cut off your tags on your clothes, choose comfortable, loose fabrics, and make sure your body gets regular movement throughout the day instead of staying still for too long. Dimension 2 contains your survival self. When energy moves in this dimension, it creates nodal networks, the substance of your relational contracts. So this is the invisible web of rules and regulations that connect you to build your safety between, entities and people and institutions. So your roles and the rules that you learn from your family, from your culture, from your community, they live here. If you've ever suddenly felt like you're in trouble for no clear reason, like this is your survival self at work trying to tell you you're out of alignment with the rules that you've learned that are supposed to keep you safe. Now, this dimension is responsible for your sense of safety, and it can get overstimulated by pressure to conform and behave in certain ways. So, money is the biggest manipulators here. It can be used to like tie your inherent value to your safety, right? So, how much you earn, how much you produce, or how much you comply is linked to your level of safety. Money is a big manipulator here, but other things can be too, right? Things that like your house or your food can be sort of put pressure on you to behave in certain ways to get back into alignment so that you follow the rules and roles that have been dictated in your relational contracts. To reduce overstimulation in this dimension, it's going to be hard, but it's really important to get honest about which roles and rules you're following. Like, which of them are you doing out of genuine choice because they align with your value system versus you're doing it out of some kind of concern or apprehension that somehow you will no longer be valued and you will no longer be safe. And when you can, in a safe way, start renegotiating those contracts so that you feel your sense of value is aligned with also feeling safe. And honestly, this is a big ask. So really, your first step in this dimension is probably just going to be to notice the invisible rules that you follow in your life. Like, what are the values that are dictating who you are, what you can do, and who you become? That, in and of itself, can be more than enough to reduce overstimulation. Dimension 1 contains your sustaining self. So when energy moves in this dimension, it creates something called an eigenvalue. And yes, eigenvalue is a mathematical term, and it actually comes from quantum mechanics. So in quantum mechanics, a system holds many potentials at once. So before you act, before you choose, before anything is realized, all possibilities exist simultaneously. Like anything can happen. But the moment that you actually act, that field of potential collapses into a single real outcome, right? That's your impact. All the other potentials that could have happened stopped being possibilities in the instant that the one outcome becomes true or embodied or done, right? So the eigenvalue is the specific value of that collapse. It's not the potential itself, and it's not the act of collapsing. It's the precise measurable result of one potential becoming the actual realized one. It's an impact. Very straightforward definition is an eigenvalue is your impact. If you've ever felt fulfilled and proud of an accomplishment, this was your sustaining self in a really balanced state. So this dimension is responsible for your actions, and it can get overstimulated by messages about productivity and pacing. Anything that tells you what you should be doing and how fast you should be doing it. Like, think about hustle culture content, like, or a to-do list that never feels like it shrinks so that you don't feel accomplished at all, or the constant pressure to be optimizing, achieving, producing more, living your best life, like every single minute of the day. That can all lead to your acting self becoming overstimulated. To reduce overstimulation in this dimension, choose one aligned action instead of 10 unaligned ones, right? Like, take away all the noise and the hustle and figure out what you actually need to do to get the result that you want. And at the same time, give yourself explicit permission to move at your own pace instead of the pace productivity culture demands. And that's it. Those are your 10 dimensions of energy moving throughout your human system alongside some of the things that can overstimulate them. Hopefully now you understand the many different ways you take in energy and why it's so easy to become overstimulated. It's not just about what you see or what you hear or what you feel or what you taste or what you touch, right? Or what you smell, the 5 senses. It's much more complicated than that. Here's something important to hold on to, though. Now that you know the 10 dimensions, I also want you to know that you don't have to address your overstimulation in all 10 dimensions at once. That's actually a good way to end up like more overstimulated, not less. Instead, the next time you feel that fog creeping in, right, that overstimulation sensation, come back to this video and review the list. Ask yourself, which dimension feels the most filled up right now? Which part of me is suffering from too much energetic exposure? Is it my subtle self, worn out from all the technology I've been around? Is it my synthesizing self, like off balance from what I ate? Or is it my sacred self, feeling filled up with others' desires for my life? Once you know which dimension needs you and your attention, you can follow some of the tips I've included here, and slowly but surely, you'll resolve that backlog of energy that's overstimulating your system. I hope that this was helpful. Let me know in the comments, what do you want to learn next? I have 20 years of research and development on the art and science of being human. So knowing what's valuable and useful and important to you helps me prioritize what to put out in the next video. And if you want to dive deeper here into the other content I've already created, watch this video next. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care of you.